Hello and welcome to another QuizCom Forms training video. In this video we'll be adding some constraints to fields so that only valid items can be added. Let's begin. With the field constraints feature you can easily configure field validation rules such as setting minimum values. Currently I can add any value to my cost field in a new form. However, with the field constraints feature I can limit what can be entered. These field validation rules are processed when a user saves the form, new item, or the edit item form. In the List QuizCom's app settings page, click the Field Constraints gear icon. This will open the Field Constraints settings page. This settings page allows you to create field validation rules which are validated when a user submits a form. Select the column you wish to validate in the Show Rules dropdown. In this example, I have selected issue number. This means that the validation operators for a number column type will be shown. These validation operations are relevant to numbers. If I were to select my email field, then add a new rule and validate its values, I will be shown validation operators for a text column type. This is because my email field is a text column. Validation operators depend on the validated field type. I'm going to create a new rule for the cost field by clicking the Add New Rule button. A new rule definition section will appear. Select a field operator in the Validate Value dropdown. In this instance, greater than or equal to $1,000. Type the error message you want to be displayed. I will change the error message to read the item's cost must be greater than or equal to 1,000. This will occur if it fails to pass the validation rule. Click Save to save the rule or the trash can to delete it. If I now enter a value less than $1,000, the form will not save the item and it will show the error message. Unlike SharePoint validations which are static, with QuizCon Forms validations, as with the other settings, you can add conditions. This turns your validation rule to a dynamic rule, which is validated only when the condition is met. To do this, go back to Field Constraints. You can set up conditions by clicking the Add Condition button. These conditions define when the field validation rule should be validated. In my example, the field validation rule should only be validated when the current value is equal to or greater than $1,000 and when the action field's current value is equal to work in progress. Now in the new form, if the action field is set to work in progress, in addition to the cost being less than $1,000, it will show the error message. If, however, I then change the action field to be completed, the form will now save. I am now going to show you how to add a validation using token values. In this example, I will ensure that an error message will appear if a date after today's date is entered. A token represents a dynamic value which can be one of the list's column values or other, such as today, which represents today's date, or me, which represents the current user. When the time of ticket field is less than or equal to today, the error message will be displayed. Different tokens will be available for different field types. To add a token, select the Add Token button. In the case of date, you can either validate on today, calculation using today, or another column. As you can see, when I try to select a date after today on the form, the error message is shown when I try to save. You can also configure multiple rules for a column. In such cases, rules will be processed according to the order they appear. This means that even if the other rules conditions are also met and their validation rules fail to pass as well, the user will not see their validation errors in this form. However, end users will be prompted only about the first rule that matches the conditions and fails passing its validation criteria. In my example, I have added an additional rule which means the cost field must be greater than $1,000 and it must be less than $2,000. Here we can clearly see both of the conditions that have been added to the field. When we return to the new form, we can see that if I enter a value less than $1,000, the first error message will appear. However, if I then add a value that is greater than $2,000, then the second error message will appear. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will join us again for more videos.